All right, you could be somewhere else, but you have chosen to come here and hear about bail, and I want to thank you. This is our democracy in action. I'm proud to be joined by our other speakers, and Johnny Mate is a personal hero of mine. I thanked him the day that I was sworn in as DA. I had worked with this organization for a long time prior to that, and I really admire the work that every volunteer member and every participating organization who's a partner does with the coalition. Their entire mission is fairness and equality in practice. And that is good because that is really the mission of the DA's office, to see that justice is done in every single case. So we're here to talk about bail. I supported bail reform, and I continue to support bail reform at the misdemeanor level because it is unfair to keep low-level nonviolent offenders in jail when they simply can't afford to get out. Otherwise, we would let them out. I also expressed concern about some of the ways that bail reform was being implemented. And some took my concern as opposition. This is not true. But the district attorney's concern for public safety is one I won't apologize for. It is a valid concern. It is a concern reflected by the public. And it is a concern that as we put historic bail reform into practice, must not be tossed aside, because regular people, just like those in the jail, who we want to treat fairly, regular people who are outside the jail also have a right to enjoy a safe community. So our system in Texas, interestingly, does not base keeping people in jail on and bail on any one factor. There's a multitude of factors that judges look to, and Judge Jordan will be far better at explaining the types of things that judges look at in determining bail. But I can tell you that we began, and this was historic for the DA's office, agreeing to personal recognizance bonds in most misdemeanors in March of 2017, long before the judge ruled. And we did that because we thought it was fair and that the risk to the community was low. The exceptions that we carved out were DWI, domestic violence, burglary of a car, because that's often organized crime. Those were the exceptions that we had. There were a few others: stalking, crimes of violence. Even though they were misdemeanors, we know there are serious misdemeanors. And some of those misdemeanors can lead to more serious crimes. DWI can unfortunately lead to manslaughter. So we were doing it. We support the lawsuit. We supported the judges in their desire when Republican judges were defeated in January and new Democratic judges took their place in January of 19. I supported Rule 9.1, which was conceived by the county court judges as basically a way to start bail reform before the judge ruled. And there were important exceptions in Rule 9.1 for DWI and domestic violence that basically required those offenders to go in front of a judge so that a judge could warn them what not to do and could also impose conditions of their bail that would protect the victims. And so what we're seeing is the implementation of a bail system. And as Johnny said, and as Isidro said, there's always going to be resistance, and sometimes that resistance is healthy. Because in criminal justice, we balance interests. We balance the interest of the individual to be free before conviction, and we balance the need of the community to be safe from dangerous perpetrators. So it's always a balancing. And you can count on the DA to advocate for safety and crime victims. We're victim-centric.
That's right.
And luckily, it's judges who make the decision about bail, not prosecutors and not defense lawyers. We advocate our sides of the case. Defense lawyer will say, gosh, he's been a good guy, he's got a lot of ties to the community. Prosecutor will say, this was a dangerous DWI, his blood level was very high, there was maybe a child in the car, something like that. So we're going to advocate our interest. We're going to advocate for public safety. Defense lawyer is going to advocate for individual freedom, and the judge is going to balance it out. So as we see historic bail reform be implemented, we just must be mindful of community safety and its importance to regular people. And when decisions get made that expose the public to danger, like in the case of this individual who just struck a van and caused 3 people, including an infant, to burn to death, we must be mindful that that people, innocent people, deserve protection too. And that conditions, which were part of Rule 9.1, let's say an intoxilizer in the car, something to keep somebody from driving that car if they're drugged, those are important. Those are not details. Those are important protections for the community. And we need bail reform to be implemented in a safe way so that judges can keep people who are too risky in jail, and so that they can, if they decide somebody is entitled to bail, so that they can condition that bail with things that keep the public safe. Those are our concerns. And while prosecutors are not to be critical of judges, the public will judge our reform in part based on how safe they really are and how safe they feel. So I think it's very important to understand that the success and the sustainability of bail reform is in large part going to depend on how safe the public feels and how safe they really are. And so I want this audience to be clear that I am for equality and that every prosecutor and employee of our office believes in giving people a fair shake. And we're looking out for your safety. And so sometimes this can be considered opposition. It's not. It's really the healthy exercise of the interests in criminal justice, the prosecutor and the defense, both representing you, and judges balancing it out. And the devil will be in the details, how it gets implemented. That's how we'll be judged. So we're hoping for a very safe implementation.